Hey, I'm Goose, and welcome to Pocket for Friday, the 18th of March. Today on the show, lawsuits, game awards, and more game awards. Plus, I keep my shirt on because I think after the week we've all had, we should just get stuff back to normal. John, roll normal titles. Alright, here's what's been making headlines. Game critic Jim Sterling is being sued by developer Digital Homicide. On the 16th of March, Digital Homicide's co-founder James Romine formally filed a lawsuit which accuses Sterling of assault, libel, and slander, and is asking for over $10 million in damages. The trouble between the pair began when Sterling released a 10-minute Let's Play video of Digital Homicide's The Slaughtering Grounds back in 2014. In the video, Sterling dubbed the game a contender for Worst Game of the Year, to which DH responded with 2 videos calling Sterling a idiot, and issued a copyright takedown through DMCA in the hopes of having the video removed. The DMCA reviewed the case and eventually ruled in Sterling's favour. From here, the catfighting gets even uglier. Sterling took to his blog to share some dirt-digging research he'd done into DH and their affiliated companies. He proposed that the studio may have been stealing art for their games, and that they were falsely associating themselves with other developers in order to heighten their reputation with the public. Sterling's large group of followers then took it upon themselves to bombard DH games and associated products with negative reviews, a process which DH have called a witch hunt. It's on these grounds that DH are basing their lawsuit. Digital Homicide will be representing themselves in court, and Sterling tweeted yesterday about the matter that he's in a very confident mood, displaying the same cocky arrogance that got him in trouble in the first place. Good work, Sterling. Sony is playing hardball on VR frame rates. During a VR presentation at GDC, senior staff engineer Chris Norden held an eager crowd of developers to task, saying there's no excuse for not hitting frame rate. You cannot drop below 60 FPS, period, ever. I can't stress that enough. If you submit a game to us and you drop down to 30 or 35 or 51, we're probably going to reject it. Yikes. Taking the edge off a bit, Sony are offering PlayStation VR consultations, in which they'll assess games before official submission in order to target key red flag areas, such as inconsistent frame rates and nausea triggers. You know, things like wearing a VR headset. The Pokemon main series has hit a new sales milestone, eclipsing 200 million copies sold. With Pokemon recently celebrating its 20th anniversary since the release of Red and Green in Japan, the series has been selling an average of 10 million units per year for 2 decades now. Now, I'm not the biggest Pokemaniac, but you can't deny that cultural dominance. Gotta grab them and keep them all. Is that right, Pete?
Yep.
And if you include all of the spin-off games, such as Pokemon Snap and the Mystery Dungeon series, that brings the sale figures for the entire Pokemon game collection to almost 280 million. Three Fields Entertainment's Dangerous Golf has been delayed. The destructive golf game was originally slated for release this May, but without any real explanation, the devs confirmed to Videogamer.com that they're holding off launch until June. Assuming there are no further delays, the game will release then on Xbox One, PS4, and PC. And John will finally get to play it. And finally, the Independent Games Festival Awards were held at GDC overnight. There were no surprises when Her Story was announced winner of Excellence in Narrative and the Seamus McNally Grand Prize. One of my favourites, Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes, won for Best Game Design, and the audience pick went to Undertale. A game I did like, I just didn't score right, apparently. Of course, the main GDC awards were also held last night, but we'll go into them in more detail right after Thing of the Day. It's Thing of the Day. GDC's official YouTube channel released a tribute video to the late Satoru Iwata. The animation honors the man and the products he helped get off the ground during his time as president and CEO of Nintendo.
It's thing of the day.
I'm joined now by Gog to discuss the GDC awards from last night. Now, Gog, you like games?
Yeah.
You like awards?
Yeah.
Did you watch these?
No.
Ah, okay. Well, do you have an opinion on them?
Probably.
Okay, let's find out.
Let's see.
All right, now the GDC awards are voted on by the developer community, and the event is actually considered to be the premier peer recognition awards night. So this is kind of like the Oscars of the games awards.
Sure.
Let's go with that. All right, so we'll look at the first winner, which was in Best Design, and it went to Rocket League.
Good choice.
Yeah, not a bad choice.
It's a well-designed game.
A very popular game that is even still as strong today as I think
Yeah.
it was when it came out.
Absolutely.
And I think in terms of design, why do you think that probably won for Best Design?
I think it's just very pure, you know? You've got
Yeah.
cars, you've got a ball, and there's a goal to get it in, and it works so well.
Yeah.
It's so simple, it's not cluttered or complicated.
It's funny, when you think about design, you'd be thinking about, like, how many things can they cram into this game?
Yeah.
Like, how many different mechanics and styles can they get in to make this a really well-designed game? But you're right, it's in its purest form, it is cars playing soccer.
Yeah,
So
and
that
it's
was
well designed, so it wins Best Design.
Excellent. All right, would you like to read the next one, which is for Best Handheld and Mobile Game?
It went to Her Story.
Well done, Her Story, which I
Yeah.
didn't know was a mobile game.
Yeah. Neither did I, but apparently it's on iOS.
I guess it's just video files.
Yeah,
It's just
it
like
would
watching.
work well. Just watching stuff and
Yep.
scrolling through.
But in terms of a mobile game, I think when you look at the other nominees, we've got things like Lara Croft Go, Fallout Shelter, which I loved. I think that was it being played by everyone in the office at one stage
Yeah.
or another, and a great marketing tool to get us all hyped for Fallout. Downwell, which is I think sort of like a little vertical platformer game, which
Yeah,
is
didn't
really
play it.
retro. I played a bit of that. Her Story, of course, and Alpha Bear.
Is that a game?
I'm not quite
Good
sure.
work, Alpha Bear.
You got a nomination, Alpha Bear,
Well
so
done.
well done.
Yeah.
But I think if you look at Her Story compared to those which are mobile experiences made for sort of touch control and
Yeah.
gaming on the go, I'm not sure Her Story is the kind of game I would have sat on the bus playing.
Yeah, me neither, but it's interesting that a lot of these are actually just mobile games.
Yeah.
The 3DS and Vita basically aren't even on the list.
And Her Story was a porting
Yeah.
across to a mobile platform, so to win that award feels not as justified as maybe
Yeah.
some of the rest of these. All right, moving on. Best visual art goes to Ori and the Blind Forest, which
Excellent choice.
yeah, beautiful game. Love looking at that one.
Yeah, and it's an interesting category because games look so good now across the board.
Yeah.
And you look at the other nominees there, you got stuff like Battlefront, Witcher, Splatoon,
Ooh.
all very realistic, amazing looking games. And
Realistic
then this-
Splatoon, yeah.
Well, you know, other than Splatoon. But you got this 2D game that just comes and just sweeps this category.
Yeah.
And it's probably because something like this is just so artistically well done and coherent. And it won't date either. You know, you'll as good as Battlefront looks, give it
Yeah.
a few years and we'll look back and be like, yeah, it doesn't hold up quite as well.
I think if you look at another nominee like Bloodborne, which was there as well, they obviously chose a style and a visual style, and they went gung-ho with it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think they deserve credit for that as well.
Yeah.
But in terms of who could make that art style really sing,
Yeah.
I think Ori is one that it was the first thing people said when they saw that game and when they were playing that game. It's like the art style just jumped out at them.
And the art actually really helps the emotion of the game.
Yeah.
You just fall in love with these characters in this world instantly, whereas the other ones are kind of almost background to the game.
Yeah, maybe it helps to have an art style which makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside, kind of like Splatoon as well, which was robbed. All right, the next one for Best Narrative also went to Her Story, which, interesting considering that game is like a jumbled narrative.
Yeah, that's probably why I won though, because it's different. You
That's
know, we hadn't
true.
seen something do that with narrative quite so well, so.
Yeah, instead of having a start, middle, and end, you just jump into the guitar solo and go, what on earth is going on here? It did, however, beat out the Beginner's Guide, which I thought was also a pretty unique way to tell a narrative, but I found it a lot more affecting. So I think, you know, it's just apples and oranges there.
Yeah, it's a better narrative, but it's not as interestingly conveyed. So-
Difficult awards to judge, so
Yeah.
well done, judges. Moving on to Best Audio, which went to Crypt of the Necrodancer, which, again, big thumbs up there. I love that
choice.
game. Very retro,
Yeah.
chiptune kind of music. That always wins with me.
Again, I think that's an interesting one in terms of it's the same as visual design because
Yeah.
you've got these other games which are just amazing, so many sound effects going on, and they've
Got like
just this
swelling
retro
orchestral
8-bit
music.
thing. Yeah.
Ori was a nominee there, and
Yeah.
that game had
Beautiful.
just stunning music, which almost brought a tear to my eye. But I guess with Crypt of the Necrodancer, it's part of the mechanic as well.
Yeah.
Was that really clever, like, beat to move on each tile, and I think,
Yeah.
like, that obviously pushed it across the line.
Yeah.
Best Technology went to
The The Witcher 3.
I think we
Yeah.
can all agree that was a pretty technical, advanced game.
Some good technology there.
Some of the best
Some
technology.
great technology.
Well, I think if you're looking at sort of that sprawling open world, that
Yep.
weather system,
Yeah. It ran quite well on everything.
It did, yep.
Actually, that's not true. It didn't run that well on the consoles. Some
Didn't
low
it?
frame rate in the boggy marshy area.
Oh, okay,
But
fair
pretty
enough.
well considering what it was.
It's The
actually
Witcher
doing.
3, guys.
Yeah.
That's like a
It was
you know
big and pretty.
200-hour game.
Some like 20 frames a second in a hard, cool area.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think we can live with that.
Yeah.
Moving on to the Innovation Award. No surprises here. It's Her Story again, which I think between this and the IGF Awards, Her Story just totally cleaned up.
I should probably play it.
Yeah.
Seems like a good game.
I mean,
apparently.
I watched Nick play it on Pocket, and I
Yeah.
think that was the best way to experience that game.
Sure, so neither of us has played this.
No.
No.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on.
Apparently it's good, though.
To
Well done.
the best debut, which went to Moon Studios for Ori and the Blind Forest, which is interesting considering that studio was made up of creatives all over the world who were sort of collaborating to make the game
Yeah.
over Skype, I'm guessing.
And they made the best debut, so obviously that kind of workflow worked
Yep.
well for them.
I'm going to say Ori and the Blind Forest sort of coming in second to Her Story here as maybe the game to do well
Yeah.
overall in
Yeah.
the awards,
Yeah.
and I'm okay with that. And finally, Game of the Year. It's the big one, and it went to...
Her Story.
No, it didn't. It went to The Witcher
Oh.
3.
Sorry.
I think if you consider a game as an entire package, I think we can agree The Witcher 3 delivered on all fronts. It was definitely one of the main nominees in the Good Game of the
Yeah.
Year awards last
I mean,
year.
it was between Fallout 4 and Witcher 3 and The Office, and originally my heart was kind of with Fallout 4 at the
Yep.
time, and then once I finished Fallout 4, I was like, yeah, I'm done. And then Witcher 3 stuck around with me a bit more.
If you could go back in time, would you pick it as your Game of the Year now?
I reckon, but my vote doesn't matter, so it wouldn't have mattered.
That is true. Well done to The Witcher 3 and to all the other winners of the GDC awards. But that's it for today's episode of Pocket, Nick's Pocketeers. Do you agree with the winners of the GDC awards? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're on the internet, stick around and check out Good Game on Facebook, YouTube, and iView. Would you like to meet some other Pocketeers? Then join the Pocketeers Facebook group and Steam group. You can follow Good Game on Twitter at GoodGameTV, follow Pocket at NickBoy, at Pierreth, at GGEditMonkey, at SamGee. He's finally on Twitter at GogMcGee, and I'm at Goose Mangus, and there's links to everything I just said in the description below. Today's Thing of the Day graphic was made by the Doctor of Who. It's actually his third submission, so thank you, Doctor of Who. We only have 4 things left, so please, if you've made one, send it in. I don't want to have to make one myself, please. Nick Boy won't be back until Tuesday, so I'll be with you on Monday as well. So until then, Goose out.
Gog out.
Can you make a thing?
No,
What do you do around here?
I don't know.
You don't watch the awards. You don't
No.
make Thing of the Days.
No,
You're just an opinionated person in the office.
I don't even have good opinions.
No.